and hot day here in Sudbury. I feel like I have a dancing outfit. And Maria is nice and comfy as well. So welcome everybody. And we're here again in our Friday conversations. Today we have some cool things to talk about, and it's about risk in life. And talk about risk, I can be here all day, all night. Because even I come into this country, it was a big risk for me, and still be connected to the higher, my higher energy, a higher source. So how are you doing, Maria? It looks like you're nice and comfy outside again. It looks beautiful out there.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Of course, I'm working out of my office here in beautiful St. Catharines, and it's a beautiful day out here. Lots of sunshine, and it's just been a crazy day. So yes, as you could tell, you could see that I'm still in my workout attire, but hey, it's all okay. It's all good.
It's all good. Yeah, that's what we are.
That's right.
We are. I'm gonna share this. Did you share it on your page?
Yes.
On your timeline? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're good. Okay. So I have to.
We are good.
Yes, we're good. That's awesome. So welcome everybody again. And yeah, so we usually, have something cool to talk about. And like I said, risk for me is like huge, and I know for Maria as well, and some of my team, some of our team as well. And it's really fascinating because I guess I can say for me, starting risk is when I am from a hometown which is very small. It's called San Felipe, and I moved to Caracas all by myself. Yeah, I have family there. I lived with them for a little bit, but it was like back then this thing, are you moving there? It's so dangerous there, and you're gonna get killed, you're gonna get this, and people telling you all these things, and I'm like, I am going. The rebel in me says. So I still went, and I was there for a long time, and I learned so much. I went to university there. I work in different places. I met some wonderful people. I still have some really good friends, and it was from when I moved there. So I love the risk, and it comes back to like having that trust inside of us, because back then only I had, let's say, the resources that I had, and maybe I didn't know all the things that I know now, and it's still I kind of, let's say, I managed to survive and be here. And then the other big risk, I say, it will be like coming to Canada. When I moved to Canada, some of you there know this. I didn't speak any English. I didn't know, like, it was my first time leaving my country, so that was a big risk right there. And coming to this, let's say, new adventures and new beginning in my life. So it was quite of different. And yeah, I would say it was hard too. And still, the learnings and the things that I went through. And I just like, pretty much sometimes I just kind of like, I'm going to let it go and be with the flow. And sometimes, yeah, some days I stress myself about things and creating the movie, like we know in my head, oh my God, I cannot do this, or how am I gonna get out of this? And it's still, we're here. So it's all these cool things. So tell us, Maria, what would be like for you, some of the risk and things that you find that, make it like where you are today?
Oh boy. It's quite interesting, it's the topic itself is quite unique, because I think everybody's perceptions on what risk truly means, I'd say in everyday terms, leaving home at 14 would be of huge risk, because coming from an Italian European background where I wasn't really exposed to the world as many typical 14-year-olds and experiencing life at 14. So kind of just, spreading my wings and flying at 14, many would say would be of high risk. I'd say, going through I guess, later on in life, I was going through in my, in my 30s, basically, restarting my life at 35 years old, in leaving my husband, becoming a single parent, and quitting my government job with the District School Board of Niagara and the Niagara Catholic. So, and just taking that risk in the possibility of building a life by design through entrepreneurship. So, I would say that would be my most recent 5 years ago. And investing everything, and starting my life, in a way where, I went through life sifting and sorting and finding myself and learning about myself, and, and making decisions that felt right in those moments that, inspired me to take those quote unquote risks. And, I have to say, in educating and, with personal development is a very big, is big for me. So, constantly, I'm constantly always doing some kind of course or workshop, and personal development is a huge, huge, huge interest of mine. And it's funny because when I look at my oldest, kind of, under the radar, kind of teach, you using the tools that I've learned over the years in, you know, helping them, kind of find their path and find their, and guiding them to whatever it is that they're looking for. But the interest that she's even seeing on, learning more about herself, she's, she's turning 12 next month, and the
Already?
fact that she's,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So finding, for her to even just really be interested in, learning more about herself. So once again, kind of getting back on topic, yeah, I'd say the personal development realm is so interesting to me, and understanding and truly understanding the conscious mind, and understanding the unconscious mind, and even now learning on the higher realms, spiritual realms or vibrational realms, and understanding how, um, your mind, which another word for vibration. I use the word vibration or energy a lot, but when you look at it, that's thoughts, because thoughts aren't tangible. Thoughts are just thoughts. It's energy creating from belief systems, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, so I'd say, yeah, those for me have been, taking just, as a child, I don't quite remember a lot of this stuff, but I from what my parents have even told me, as a child, I was very curious, and I would get into a lot of, quote unquote, risks and trouble, because I was really just one of those kids that just want to experience life. So a few stories that my parents have told me that it's quite comical. So yeah, I've had my little encounters and risks as a child as well too. So, but yeah, I think risk is an interesting topic, and I think everybody's definition, it's just like our topic of success. What are people's, back a few episodes ago, we were discussing success. And when you ask people that, it's interesting to, their perception on what that means, So it's just like this. What is one's perception of risk? So, so it's a great topic choosing, Zoe.
Yeah, and now that you're saying, yeah, going back into the entrepreneur, like for me, this is gonna be our life. Let's say, when we became entrepreneurs and learning all the things that we learned already, plus the more that we're learning, is a risk. And then taking, sometimes decisions that are gonna be like, oh my God, is it okay this, and how can I do that, or all this stuff is gonna take us to, take the risk and trust too. It's like they say that have the faith in you. And whatever you want to call it, it's just that. And sometimes we don't know how to explain it, and that's okay. It's just there. So for me too, I find that now that you say like with your kid and how she is, you know, exploring and finding herself, it's big. Like for us, like I remember, yeah, when I was a kid, I was that kind of kid that everything is why do I have to do this? Why? I want, even though I was shy, I would say, because yes, I was, and it's still I was curious and I wanted to explore. Or why do I need to go here? I want to go over there. So you always want to, you know, changed it. So
Yes.
yeah, we have some really cool people and some people behind the camera too. Tina is here. We have Yolanda. Oh hi, Luis. And Cindy, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or anything you want to say about taking risk in your life and how you can, you know, still be connected, so please feel free to say anything or ask us any questions that you have. We're here to, you know, this is a conversation, and we're open to receive any comments or any questions. So thank you so much for watching us. And yeah, so to me, I find that, you know, we can really take the risk, and at the end, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I did that, and look at where I am now. For me, like I said before, when I came to Canada and I didn't know the language, that was like a huge thing for me, because I'm like, how am I going to be able to put a sentence together? I wasn't even, you know, sure about that. And then just slowly and learning, and just like I tell my students to say in Salsa, is practice. I remember, you know, I volunteer in different things. I just put myself out there, and I was always like looking for ways to communicate and express myself in English. And here I am. So if I can do it, anyone can do it, because it's really just a matter of doing it. You just trust yourself that, you know, you can do it, and that's it. And to me also, I find that it's like you gotta embrace those moments of risk, because whether you're like super scared about something, just trust that. And like we talk about that too, you know, taking the deep breath or meditate on certain things, that will really help you. And for me, I find that that is also a big thing when it comes to like, oh my God, I gotta go do this. This is a really big risk, and I'm still gonna go and do it. So just to be, let's say, open and trust that higher self, like we know we talk about that, it's in you, and it's like that power on you, and it's gonna, you know, protect you and keep you safe. So it's just a matter of go ahead and do it. So it's really fun. And I got that from a book I'm reading, and it's just I feel like, oh my God, yeah, risk, this is something really good, because I actually talk to my clients sometimes. Some are entrepreneurs, or some, you know, are starting a new job or things like that, and they always like with that scare face, or, you know, they're like, I don't know if this is good for me. And I'm just like, you know, just trust your gut. You know if this is good, and you know if this is like not so good. So just keep going and trust yourself. That's all we can do. So
Exactly.
mm-hmm. So what about
By any chance?
business? Tell us on your business. Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
What do you want to say?
oh. No, I was just going to ask you, because a lot of the things that you're saying. Did you read my notes post? I post these notes from the universe. It's this beautiful, beautiful book that I got actually with Tina when we. When Tina and I
Okay.
went to, Tina's an amazing colleague of ours that, and
Just
we went to
behind
this
the scene
bookstore, and
people.
I use this. Yes, I, you know, that I use this every day, and I kind of use it as a mean to kind of just connect and just receive what I need to receive for myself or for, you know, my own audience. And it's funny, I don't know if you saw that post, but a few things that you said actually spoke to the post that I literally posted today.
No, I
You know,
didn't see
and
that post.
oh,
But we
you
are
did.
connected. We know we're connected in a different way.
But
So.
it's funny. But you know what the funny thing is, because you know how you mentioned practice. You know, you need to practice, right? But if you want, I won't read my post because this is probably one of the longest posts, but for anyone who's interested, go look at it. But I always add my views on that, and I kind of elaborate to what it usually says. But it's funny because this is in alignment kind of to what we're talking. It doesn't specifically say risk, but this is what it says. This is the universe. As part of this week's celebration, I'm going to share a little secret with you. Actually, I should have shared it with you ages ago, but most people, quote unquote people, aren't ready for this kind of secret. I've decided you're different. It's the secret of getting anything, absolutely anything you want, okay? To magnetize into your life the things, emotions, and circumstances of your dreams, all right? It explains how masters become masters and adepts become adepts. And it'll finally convince you that I am always there to lend a hand or perform a miracle. Cool. Practice. Yeah, practice. Because just a little practice goes farther than you could ever imagine. P.S. Now fight the temptation to nod and shrug it off. Do something. Visualize just a little. Act with faith just a little. Explore your beliefs just a little. Manifest a little something. A phone call, a compliment, a flower, whatever. Expect a little miracle. Expect a little help. Expect it to be easy. Practice.
Oh,
So
wow.
this was actually my first time reading this because I didn't read it. I take this. The way I kind of just open it up and I just let my my intuition guide me to what I need to hear or what others need to hear. So for me, so it's funny because a few key words that you said was really in alignment. So I elaborated on this because, you know, adding this to our topic of risk, this is the thing, you know, people set, you know, it's like, you know, you looking at risk as a topic and, you know, and we ask consciously, how do we mitigate risk? How do we minimize risk? And there's the practical action steps and processes that one could follow to mitigate that. So for example, being in the real estate investment wealth building industry, which is one component of who we are as a business. It's funny, risk in real estate investing. So when you're looking at mitigating, how does one mitigate when you're analyzing an investment opportunity? And it's so interesting to see, and this is something that kind of I downloaded this morning because we're in the middle of a really big opportunity. It's a very exciting, you know, learning a lot because this is now we're going into the development realm. So this is very, you know, it's been incredible because I've learned a lot in terms of development and commercial investing. So, and it's funny when I'm talking to a few people, you know, about the opportunity, it's interesting where, and I understand it's a negotiation tactic, but you could look at this in all areas. I'm using real estate as an example because this is something I'm actually going through right now. But you could even apply what I'm about to say to any areas, because in our heads, when you look at risk and we're looking at results, we're looking at, you know, what we want versus what we don't want. And then you have the risk factor, right? You could look at it as you could look at this example of what I'm about to share as a practical example of life and how a person negotiates in their mind, you know, the risk factor and taking those leaps of faith, right?
Mhm.
So going back to this opportunity, and it's interesting when I'm talking to people and people are using a negotiation as a tactic to get a price or to get something that they want. You know, they see the value, but they're using a tactic like negotiation, and they're using risk as a means to get what they want. But the funny thing is, and this is what I've noticed, being somebody that is more so than a real estate investor, even though I have years of experience here now, but looking at a higher realm, a larger view perspective, a personal development perspective on, it's interesting how people will negotiate and will fight for their limitations. And this is the one thing that I noticed, that, people will look at that negative perspective and say, okay, in this opportunity, there's a vacancy, which in my eyes, I'm looking, if you were to look analytically, it's like, okay, there's a vacancy, so there's loss of finance, there's loss of revenue in this one unit. In my mind, I'm looking at this as an opportunity, as, okay, now I have a space, 6,000 square feet, that I could subdivide into, if I wanted to, 4 units, and the income that I could generate from that. So people will use that negative perspective and those limitations of, okay, well, this property is lacking X amount of dollars. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying to myself now, well, why are you arguing for your limitations? Are you really limiting yourself to the possibility of what you could create? Like, look at the bigger picture, look at the bird's eye view. Now, I know more experienced investors look at that, but once again, they use those tactics, negotiation as a tactic to get that better price. And it's funny where you could look at risk in life. So you're not a real estate investor, or you invest in stocks and bonds and you're a trader, or have people that take care of that for you. Personally, from experience in that realm, I like the fact of being able to control my assets and being able to see and go through that experience, and as opposed to having somebody else take care of that for me, because of my lack of knowledge. I find, to me, that's high risk. If you're not able to control, I don't know, so you want to talk risk, that is a subject on its own. If you want to talk about wealth building and you want to talk about investments or your retirement, it's interesting how people tend to leave that to the people that have reputations. OMERS, I'll give you an example. OMERS is a pension company that works with, at least I can't speak for all, but for the District School Board of Niagara, they use OMERS. I'm just curious to see, are these people that are actual investors, or are these people that are just employees that are there and trained to do a specific job? So it's just from my understanding, and when we're looking at wealth building as a, how we're leaving assets to other people, where it's one thing if you're leaving it to a skilled professional that knows what they're doing and are, in that industry themselves, or if you're leaving it to an employee that may or may not be investing that way themselves. So
so I just gonna say that Tina is so cool that she say here, risk is essential to having an exciting life and learning new things. That's so true. I love risk. I am like #1 risk taker. Yes. And she also asked a question, what's one thing to say to someone who wants to step outside the box? For example, have a situation that's unhappy, but too afraid. That's a good question.
So do you want me to answer that, or do you want to go first, Zoe?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Can you read that again to me one more time?
What is one thing you'd say to someone who wants to step outside the box? For example, leave a situation that's unhappy but too afraid.
But too afraid.
Okay, I'll start.
Okay. Oh, okay, sure.
I think the one thing I say is like, go inside of you and trust, and your answer will come to you. The answer will come to you. So just go inside and kind of meditate into it. Because to me, everything, all the questions that we're looking for, all the answers are here inside of you. So why looking outside when you have it in you?
Yeah. That, I love that. But I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to play devil's advocate for you. Now, and I know that you're going to be able to relate this because we were there at one point. For somebody that has gone through a lot of trauma and doesn't have that connection to their own unconscious and their own inner being, and is unable to connect to those levels because of their adversity, how does one go within and do that?
To me,
It's easy.
you're asking me, or you're gonna answer that?
I'm asking you this. So how does one, because I 100% agree with you, but think of us years ago.
Yeah.
If you told me, 6 years ago, go within and listen to your gut, I'd be like, okay, I would have no idea what would, I would understand what that would mean logically, but the strength of my mind would overpower that back then. My ego and my logic would overpower that. So how does somebody that has trauma or has a very strong mind, brilliant mind, but is not connected to that inner voice?
Yeah, because you say it's not connected, but it just sometimes you think you're not connected, but you are connected.
Yes. 100%.
It's just whether you know it or not, that's up to you. And to me, I can just give you an example of, a simple example. It could be like, oh, I have this job opportunity, so should I take it? Mm-hmm. Then it's really your decision to take that job or not. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to your own life, yes, I agree. We didn't know what we didn't know back then a few years ago. Yeah, I would have been like that too. Like, what? You want me to trust? How do I do that? So it's like, because we're curious, maybe that's what they need too. Even if you don't know things or how to go inside, just be curious. Or be like that kid that is, that's there, that they always like want to know something or want to explore things. So then find that curiosity in you. And we know how to find that curiosity in you. Is just, we have tools, we have cool things that we do. And we can show you how to do that too. And we learn it and we're using it, and it's been working, like, change our life for good. So yeah, I guess it'll be just that, the curiosity.
Yeah.
Because if people want to change, people want to change. If you don't want to change it, you don't want to change. So yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. I love that. No, that's great. Good answer. For myself, what I would do, like thinking back to who I was. So this is what I would probably say to somebody who is very logical or have gone through adversity and are in a place of fear in taking a risk. The first step, what I would probably do, which would be very in alignment to something logical and practical, is make a list. I'd say make a list of the pros and the cons of taking that risk. So at least they have something on paper that they could view, something that's practical. And it's also a way of them, offloading what's going on in their mind. So it's something there that they could visualize, they could see in front of them. That's step one. Then I would probably say to them, now review, the advantages and disadvantages, and get into a feeling place. I'd say get into a feeling place of, when you're reading your disadvantages, and kind of clearing and then going and getting into a feeling place. Now seeing, and as you're reviewing, especially on the level of pros, notice how you feel on both of those levels. So this is a great way for them to calibrate to that list that they made. Then what I would say is that I would shift them to say, okay, now if you were to take that risk, and as you say, and I would reiterate what they would have on their list or go through that list, and if you were to take that chance, looking at all the pros, how would that make you feel? Because I feel that that question, it triggers something within their reticular activating system within their brain. So when they could get into that feeling place and activate that strong, positive, like the value in those advantages to what it is that would make them to shift them there, and see that just by going over that list that they've created and the advantages, that in itself that might be able to shift to see, okay, can you see yourself making that change now, and kind of going through those steps, but ideally putting it on paper, getting to that feeling place, and then having them visualize the outcome of if they were to take that chance and how that would change their life. I think that would be a great process. At least for myself, if I were to have done that back then, I think the key thing for me is getting into that feeling place. And I think nowadays, I mean, in the world today, there's a high emotions going on everywhere. I would say not so positive. I feel there's a lot of generational beliefs coming out, are being, there's triggers happening out there. So I feel that if people are to get into that feeling place of the possibility of how their life could change, that may be able to sway them to a place of taking that risk. Because I think the natural go-to for people is when they're hit with a decision that they have to make, regardless of what state they're in, where if they're in a state of fear, to get them to that other side, it's a process. So I think if you could get them into a feeling space of possibility of how their life could change, regardless of how they're going to get there, and knowing that as people like us as guides would be able to help facilitate that. Ultimately, they're making the decision on their own merit, but I think knowing that somebody has their back in making that transition would be a key place to start. And I think bringing in the logic with the unconscious, then the higher self, which is possibility, bringing all of those realms, I think would be a great shifting point. So
yeah, very good. I love that. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we have Jennifer, Lorna Swati. Hi, Monique, Jeno. Hi, thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, anything you want to add to this great conversation today, please let us know. Yeah, so it's just all related, right? When you look at risk, that you were talking about that, and it's like you gotta have that, your trust into the process as well. And now we know that's the best thing to do, right? Okay, I'm taking this risk, I'm gonna go to this path, and then you trust that this is gonna be, because we have, like, let's say, we learn so much and we have some good tools that we use, and we are here to help, like, to serve other people. And I love to see that too, when I share some of the things with my clients, if they just to, like, see their transformation is so amazing. So I love those tools. So and yeah, it's very good to,
incredible,
if you feel like risk is going to improve your life, go do it. And also, of course, be safe. Safety first. And yeah, do what you, let's say, what you feel like is good for you. So so yeah,
exactly.
yeah, well, today I have some other things going on tonight too. So maybe we can leave it nice and short today. What else you want to say, Maria?
I guess I could conclude by saying there's that's a good one. Sorry, I just downloading.
Tell
There's
us
never
you're downloading. Tell
yeah.
us.
Sorry. There's never any risk. There's risk. There's only risk when you're staying in a position of fear and you're staying in a position of negative emotion. And I feel that there's more risk in staying in a position of fear than opening yourself up to the possibilities of what could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and I feel that this is a really great place to to kind of go back to that list making, and if you have to make a decision, that's a practical form of being able to do something. And it's always, like I always say in a lot of my posts and, a lot of this, to me, it goes back into, if you're unable to do it yourself, there's resources and there's people out there that could help you as well. You don't have, you don't have to feel that you're alone. And people might get into the mindset of, okay, can I afford this and that, and all this self-talk that goes on in people's minds. I have to say, it's you're always protected. You're always protected. I actually, Zoe, I didn't even tell you this, I actually got into a very interesting situation that could have had, put it this way, it could have impacted Carlo and my life if it unfolded differently. And it's funny how when I was going through this situation, basically, long story short, went to Mississauga and back, and my tire fell off when I was less than a half a kilometer from my house.
Oh.
Our tire literally fell off.
You're like, that's my tire. I'm driving here. Okay, what's going on?
No, it literally, there was something, it was gradual, but it was, as you're coming up Bunting, literally just before my street.
Wow.
It just clunked. And I'm like, and when I tried to move, it made this loud screech. I'm like, okay, something broke. So needless to say, and it's funny how, once again, it's something as small as changing your winter tires, and when I look at that, I mean, my perspective, of course, my family's like, you could have died, you went to Mississauga, and this and that, you took a risk. And I'm like, the thing is, I know that I'm protected. I know that if something is going to happen, I know it's for my highest good. I've done the work, and that's the thing where you have to do the work to get to that place, right? It doesn't just happen and say, okay, God's protecting me. You have to do the work to get to that knowing place. And I think when you could get to know yourself, read some books. Not saying you have to invest in a coach or you have to invest in a psychologist. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying take the action steps in getting to know yourself. Read books. Go to a library. It's not going to cost you a thing. It's going to cost you in time. And I think, really get to know yourself to the point where you just have that knowing within yourself that risk is there to help you and guide you.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. And I'm glad to hear that you made it. So thank you for sharing that story. And
anyways, I'm surprised. Yeah,
that's okay. It's all
How about you, Zoe?
Yeah, no, all I can say is that, to me it's been.
How would you like to conclude?
To me, it's like, you know, if you feel like the risk that you're taking in your life is gonna, you know, be beneficial at some point, well, go and trust and do it. And I'm just a little bit, maybe a little opposite. I don't know, because you say, you know, saying people go and do this and see somebody. To me, having a coach, a mentor is key as well, and have a group like a mastermind group like we do have. So those things are helping because, yeah, you, like you said, you don't have to do this alone. There is always somebody there that can listen to you, or you can go and talk and express yourself. And yeah, so take the risk and be safe. We are complete for today. We'll see you next Friday at 3 p.m. And thank you all so much for watching us. Thank you. And any comments or anything, please feel free to text us or connect with us somehow. We're here to help you.
Yes.
Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. We'll see
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Thank you all.
Love you. Bye.